Yeah. Welcome into the Junior and Senior Nothing But Sports podcast. I'm just gonna dive right into it. We got college football week 3 about to get underway here in a little bit. So I'm going to make my week 3 picks, and tomorrow we're gonna do the NFL games. We're going to do one NFL game for today since it's coming on today. But we will pick the rest of the NFL games tomorrow. I got a long list here, so about 20 games. So I'm kind of going to try to not run through them because, it's another big weekend of college football. Some reason a lot of people think this is a down week, but looking at a lot of these matchups, we got a lot of rivalry matchups going on. This is basically rivalry week early in the season because of so many conferences moving as far as teams going to different places. So the rivalry games, some teams want to play them, some don't for whatever reason. But we have a lot of good rivalry games today. So hopefully these games that we're going to watch this weekend, they will keep this going as these conferences shift. As I talked about earlier in my earlier podcast, the news broke today earlier this morning that Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, and San Diego State will be in the Pac-12 starting in 2026. To make it 6 teams as of right now. They will join Oregon State and Washington State in the new Pac-12. I didn't realize that they had to have at least 8 teams in the conference for it to be a conference. So they still have a minimum of 2 more teams that they have to put into the Pac-12 in order for it to be an actual conference. So they've got 2 years to do it. As I talked about in my little reaction podcast to it, you look at teams like Air Force, good programs. Like I said, UNLV, a team that the last couple of years, at least the last year and a half, they have been a really good program, making it to the Mountain West Championship last year, which was very unexpected by me. And this year they're starting off very good at 2-0. They got a big game I'm going to talk about here in a second. And then there's some other teams you can look at because at the end of the day, the group of 5 is you're only going to get one team in. And I always thought about having a separate group of 5, championship tournament where you could have at least 12 teams in there and, kind of just separate yourselves from the Power 4 because at the end of the day, it will expand eventually. Likely to 16 teams, maybe even 20 within the next 4 or 5 years. I believe that's going to happen. Too much money to be made, so I believe it will expand, and there won't be any bye weeks or anything like that. But we will get more home playoff games. So if that is going to happen, in which I think it is going to happen, I think the group of 5, or it will become the group of 6 with the Pac-12. I think they should just, span off and create their own playoff. That just gives more incentive for all those other teams who know they have no opportunity to make the Power 4 playoff, as I call it now, and just, create your own thing and give those kids something to fight for other than these bowl games that no one seems to care about anymore. So I'm all in favor of that, and I know there have actually been talks about that, little rumblings here and there, but I would like to see them conjure up some sort of plan to do that so that at least we have 2 playoff scenarios to look forward to, and, more postseason games that matter. That's really the only thing college football hasn't gotten right. The regular season is probably the best out of any sport, but the postseason has been god-awful for a very long time now. and they just can't get it right. And I think if they can find a way to get it right, they're going to skyrocket even more than they already have. And you talk about a situation where I don't think they will ever catch the NFL because it's professional sports and they have less teams. I think they will get close as far as reaching those type of numbers and goals. So I would hope that they would do that and just separate and create their own thing. Nothing wrong with that. There's just two different levels, and we've seen that over the last decade. There'll be an upset every now and then, but they're just two different levels. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You just need to create your own thing. So we'll see what happens, but that was the news that came down today. They're expecting to add about 2 more teams here probably in the next year or so. Like I said, Air Force, UNLV maybe, Memphis. I've heard Tulane, one of my Louisiana schools, or heck, even Lafayette. Any one of my Louisiana schools that get in, I would be down for that, because that's just going to help them boost their profile and push them for higher spots. But anyway, we got some games on deck for week 3, and I've been saying this the last couple weeks, but this is probably one of the better, just matchups wise, this is probably one of the better weekends to start. I think it just keeps getting better and better each week. Like you said, I've heard a lot of people say it's a low point, and the only reason they would probably say that is because there's only 2 ranked matchups, so which that doesn't really matter to me, but that's just what I've been hearing all week. But no, this is rivalry week early in the season. Of course, there is one the last week of the season, but because of all the alignment, we're seeing a lot of these games being played earlier, which is great because that means they're going to matter even more. And you're going to have more chances, more opportunities down the line to put yourself in a situation to argue for a playoff spot. The better teams you play, the more opportunities you're going to have. So I think that's important to understand in this situation. But we get started Thursday Night Football tonight in about 30 minutes. A really exciting game. Arizona State at Texas State down there in San Marcos. This is a beautiful game. A lot of people don't know much about Texas State. They're an up-and-coming program. They've been in the FBS for a couple of years now. They've just gotten better and better every year. They beat the brakes off of UTSA last week. I did not see that coming at all. A lot of people had UTSA in their college football playoff hunt. That's over. They're done. Texas State can now enter themselves in that. them being in the Sun Belt, having a chance to be that highest Group of 5 team. We're going to get to Northern Illinois later. But, again, this is another great test. Arizona State coming on the road at Texas State, a smaller school. A win for Texas State here puts them in that conversation, a serious conversation of as far as being in the Sun Belt, because the Sun Belt is loaded this year. So I'm going to pick Arizona State on the road to go ahead and get this victory. I think that they impressed me. When they beat Wyoming in week 1, I picked them to win, but the fact that they completely destroyed Wyoming shocked me. And then I watched them play Mississippi State at home, and again, I expected them to win that football game, but the way that they ran all over that Mississippi State defense, that shocked me. What Scatabo was able to do against that defensive line was amazing. And that offensive line of Arizona State held up pretty well. So they've done nothing but shock me the first 2 weeks of the season. And you got to remember, those first 2 opponents they played, Wyoming is at least not right now, but they were, in many people's eyes, a quality Mountain West opponent, and they ran them over like they're supposed to. And then they face an SEC team in Mississippi State who, you can say what you want about them, they're still an SEC team. At home, they took care of business. They almost let them come back, but they won the game. So, again, you've got two wins that the first one was moderate, the second one was pretty impressive. And now you go on the road to a Texas State team who is going to try to make plans to be in that college football playoff. So we know what Texas State's offense can do, rushing and passing. They go up and down the field. The question is going to be, can their defense hold up against this running game of Arizona State? Because we know they're going to hand the ball off to Scatterbo and let their offensive line go to work. So I think that Arizona State's running game, they will impose their will on Texas State's defense, and I don't think they're going to be able to stop it, which will produce more points for Arizona State. And I think both teams are going to score. I think this is going to be a nice, fun Thursday night game. You know, you got the Bills and the Dolphins as well. So you got two really should be high-scoring football games tonight, both college and NFL. So I'm excited to watch both these games. But like I said, I have Arizona State in a close 3-point win. The next game is UNLV at Kansas. Kansas lost last week on the road to Illinois, and they're not ranked any longer. UNLV has completely destroyed their first two opponents. Their first game was against Houston on the road in Houston, and they went there and completely destroyed Houston. I didn't see that coming at all. Of course, the Houston coach is Willie Fritz, the old coach at Tulane. But, man, that was bad. But then I also saw Houston go to Oklahoma last week and come within a couple points of beating Oklahoma. So I'm confused. But maybe UNLV is just that good because they then put up 70 points the next week against, I don't remember who they played, but they, again, took care of business. Their offense has been very good for the last year and a half. Their defense has been average at best. They have to go on the road to Kansas, who, you know, they're still adding pieces to their stadium. And Kansas, to me, what happened last week, the reason why they lost that game, it was a close game, but they kept turning the ball over. Literally almost the same way. Picks where guys were just jumping the route. Jalen Daniels looked god-awful, and I love Jalen Daniels. I think had he not got hurt a couple years ago, he would have been in the Heisman. He would have been in the Heisman contention. And we would have had probably two Daniels win back-to-back Heisman trophies, or he would have been at least close. But he just hasn't been healthy. He's been healthy so far this season, and that game scared me because that Illinois defense is really good, no question about it. Brett Bielema, what he's done with that Illinois defense has been great, but he just had some bad turnovers where I don't know if he got bad looks or he didn't put enough air on the ball, but he allowed that team to take advantage. And every turnover that Illinois got, they took advantage of it. So I think you come back home and you face a UNLV team that's hot. They're running teams over. They're taking care of their business, and they're going up and down the field. So, but I'm still going to take Kansas in this game. They need to win this game very badly because that Big 12 slate is no joke. They cannot afford to lose this game. They're already 1-1. If they lose this game, it's over for me. Now, they can still win the Big 12, and then you get your automatic bid, of course. But I just think if you start losing this many games early in the season, especially the teams that I would think are a notch below them, you're not going to be able to withstand the onslaught that is that Big 12 schedule. So I have the confidence still in Jalen to get the job done. That defense was, you know, they were good last week, but I expect that defense to clamp down on this UNLV offense. But I would not be surprised if UNLV came in here and went up 21-10 or something like that, and Kansas had to come back to win it. But I do expect them to win this football game, and they had better because the teams that are in the Big 12 right now, the Big 12 looks pretty good. They've taken care of business for the most part. So you do not want to get behind in this conference because you will be shuffled all the way to the bottom, and you'll be missing out. So hopefully they will take care of business. And that game's on Friday, by the way. And another game that's on Friday, which is my personal primetime game of the week, number 20 Arizona at number 14 Kansas State. This is my primetime game of the week, which signifies is that the game that I feel is the most important and integral to the season for me. College Game Day does their thing. Big Noon does their thing. This is my thing. Two ranked teams. To be quite honest with you, Arizona didn't play well at all. Northern Arizona wasn't good enough to beat them, which is why they didn't. But they looked terrible. Defense was fine, but offensively, McMillan and Fofita, they did not look good at all. Their offensive line wasn't very good as well. And sometimes you sleepwalk with these night games on the road or at home because it's just like, it's Northern Arizona, we can take care of them. And I get that because my team did that last week for a half. But then eventually they put their foot on the gas and got it done. Arizona was bad this entire game. And I get it's an in-state rivalry, sort of. I don't remember the last time Northern Arizona was beating Arizona. So, I would just hope that they get it together. But they go on the road against a Kansas State team that, like I said last week, should have lost to Tulane. They got robbed at the end. Or they got robbed of an opportunity to win. They took a touchdown off the board off of a terrible call. And pretty much allowed Kansas State to walk away with that win. And even if they would have lost that game, it's not like I would have thought Kansas State was bad. Because Tulane, I believe, as I keep saying, is going to be the team to make the playoff this year. The first group of 5 team to do it in this new playoff. I still believe that. And I will tell you why in a little bit later when we get to that pick. But, yeah. So for this game, I'm going to take Kansas State because they're at home. And usually what I like to do, as I've said before, when I have two teams that I think are about even, I basically go with the team that's at home. Just because, like I said, there's not really too many factors that kind of make me want to sway Arizona's way. If Arizona's at home for this game, I'd probably pick Arizona. Just because they're at home. And both these teams are even. They both have mobile, accurate quarterbacks. Avery Johnson for Kansas State. Noah Fofita for Arizona. They both have playmakers all over the field, offensively and defensively. That Kansas State defense, it was odd because at times they showed me that they had toughness, and then at times they gave up big plays. So, and we know what McMillan and Fofita can do at Arizona. They love the big plays. They just didn't hit any against Northern Arizona. Like I said, I'm inclined to take Kansas State because they're at home. It's a Friday night game. It'll be on Fox. A lot of eyes will be on it because the only other game that's going to be on Friday night is UNLV at Kansas, which is also a primetime game. So they'll be split. More people will pay attention to the Kansas State game. It's ranked, unranked, Big 12 and all that. But Kansas is also in the Big 12. And that's Kansas State's little cousin or whatever. So there's 3 Big 12 teams out of these 2 matchups that are in action. So this is going to tell a lot about the Big 12. And they're also Arizona State's in the Big 12. So out of the first 3 matchups that I've picked, you've got 4 of those 6 teams being in the Big 12. So we're going to see a lot. We're going to learn a lot about the Big 12 before we even get to Saturday. So, yeah, that's my primetime game of the week. Like I said, Kansas State to me, Avery Johnson, he looked tentative at times. He didn't look very sure of what he wanted to do in certain situations against Tulane. I expect that to be different at home. I expect their defense to be a little bit better. And if Arizona loses this game, they're obviously not going to be ranked, but I think it could be downhill for Arizona because they received a lot of hype coming into the season, specifically because of those 2 guys. And like I said, I just don't know if they're ready for a primetime game like this. in a situation like this where they're one of the only games on, everybody's paying attention to them, and they're going to a Kansas State crowd that is going to be ready to go on a Friday night. Yeah, if I was betting on this game, I'd definitely bet on Kansas State. All right, let's get into the Saturday slate. I'm kind of going to jump around all over the place. Some of these will be quicker than others. Let's go Apple Cup, Washington State at Washington. This game is in Seattle, so it'll be at Lumen Field, which is the home of the Seattle Seahawks. I got Washington State, and this honestly is one of the first times I've had Washington State as a edge over Washington as far as talent-wise, just because they lost their coach, their coaching staff. They lost a Heisman candidate quarterback. They lost all types of offensive and defensive players, whether it be to the draft, transfer portal, or whatever. So, and still they're 2-0. Now, of course, they beat teams that they're supposed to beat. Eastern Michigan and I don't even remember who the first team was, but they took care of their business, as you would expect a Power 5 or Power 4 team to do. But now this is their first test of the season, and it's a neutral field of the battle for Washington, the Apple Cup, which has been entertaining pretty much for the last decade. But I just like Washington State, man. I like what they did against Texas Tech. They completely shut down that Red Raider offense, which we know goes up and down the field. Texas Tech just has never had a defense. And that Washington State defense was able to tame them enough and let that offense run wild. They had no answers for that Washington State offense. And remember, this is a Washington State offense that had Cam Ward last year. And they were top 20 for a very long time. And then they kind of flamed out near the end. But I expect them to win this game and get a big win for them, get them to 3-0. And I don't think they would be ranked after this unless a bunch of ranked teams start losing. But people have to remember, Oregon State and Washington State, they're in the Pac-12 technically, but they're the only two teams in it. So they don't get no automatic bid or nothing. They're going to have to fight to get one of those last 9, 10, 11, 12 spots. You have to win this game if you're Washington State. Washington, again, you're in a rebuild mode. It's still a rivalry game, so of course both these teams are going to play hard. But again, they're in rebuild mode right now. I expect this to be a close game because it usually is. But I finally think that Washington State has surpassed Washington, at least this year, with the talent gap and the scheme and the way in which they want to play football. So give me Washington State to win that. West Virginia at Pitt, another rivalry game. I forget. I think is it the Backyard Brawl? I think it is. I think that's what it's called, the Backyard Brawl. I'm glad they're playing this game. I hope they continue to play this game. That's the theme of this weekend is rivalry. And like I said, another rivalry game I expect to be close. The last time these two teams played, it was a wild one. I expect it to be wild again in that Pittsburgh Steelers stadium. Expect to see a lot of West Virginia fans. I don't know what West Virginia is going to be because they had a chance in a big game to beat Penn State team that we just saw last week looked not impressive at all. They've got an opportunity to put themselves in a position to get themselves back up because, again, West Virginia is a Big 12 team. Pitt's in the ACC, but we just named off about 5 or 6 Big 12 teams that are in action before we even get to Saturday. So they're going to get an opportunity to watch those teams play and say, okay, some are winning, losing, and here's what we need to do. Your season isn't over if you're West Virginia, but you've got to pick yourself up off the mat and get back to work. And find out what you're made of. And a rivalry game, physical and tough rivalry game, that's how you find out what you're made of. So I expect this to be a tight, close game. I'm going to, like I said, two teams that are close. I go with the home team this time. Give me Pitt at home. Again, Pitt struggled a couple weeks ago with their opponent, their lower level opponent. So both these teams are kind of just like mid 6-6, 7-5 teams to me. This is like a 24-20 type of game. But again, home team, rivalry game, give me Pitt at home. I'm not even going to waste any time on this pick. Georgia and Kentucky. I wouldn't dare pick Kentucky in this game. They got completely run over by South Carolina last week, which is part of the reason why they got College Game Day coming to South Carolina. Because I believe they were probably going to go to Kentucky had they won that game. But they got drug around the corner and beat up. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. They couldn't do anything. And the quarterback for Kentucky, Vandegrift, this kid, he was at Georgia. Now, he lost his spot, whatever the case may be. He came to Kentucky for a different start, and now you see what's happening. And that just goes back to what I said before about transferring 48,000 times. This is what's going to happen, is you want to keep trying to go to different places and start just because you don't get your way, instead of sitting back and waiting like some other guys have done. Wait for your opportunity. Carson Beck's going to be in the draft after this year. You could have had your chance to be on a Georgia team and propelled them to a championship. But you go to Kentucky, and it's not working out. It doesn't look like they have any weapons. Their offensive line is awful. If you thought what South Carolina did was bad, Saturday night, what Georgia's going to do to this team, I mean, it's going to make people think that Georgia can't be beat at all this season. Now, that's not true, of course, because Kentucky just looks like a terrible football team. But I don't care if this game was played in Australia. Georgia is the better team, and it's not even close. Georgia would have to have 3 turnovers, have Kentucky do a punt return for a touchdown, and have Georgia miss a field goal in order for them to win this football game. And even then, I think they'd find a way to screw it up. So, now, I will say this. The last time Georgia went to Kentucky, it was one of the ugliest, sloppiest games I've ever seen by both teams. And Georgia kind of limped out of there with the victory. And we've seen them do that a couple of times against SEC teams where they go on the road. Yeah, it's just sloppy and ugly, and they find a way to win. That's what good teams do. So, but I'd still be shocked if this game was even close. I want to say I feel sorry for Kentucky, but when you're at home and you go against a team like South Carolina, who we don't know who they are yet, and you let them completely just destroy you, nope. Georgia by 1 million. I don't even know what the spread is, but I'm pretty sure it's like plus 20. If you're betting on that game, you better take Georgia with the points, because it's going to get ugly really fast. Toledo at Mississippi State. This is an off game to pick, but I really think Toledo can win this game, and I'm actually going to pick them to win this game. I saw something from Mississippi State at the end of that Arizona State game where, they were down early by a lot. They came back, made it close, but they couldn't come back and win it. Toledo is a team that if you play around, they can put up points on you. Illinois found that out last year in the first game, and they came within a field goal of losing that game. Toledo's going to run around and make plays. They lost their quarterback, and I understand that, but Mississippi State, to me, is going to be probably one of the worst teams in the SEC this year, and this will be a reason why. You saw Northern Illinois upset Notre Dame. I think this will be one of those upsets of this week, and I honestly think that Toledo, and it won't get much news because Mississippi State's not ranked and they're not well known or whatever, but give me Toledo Rockets to upset Mississippi State on Saturday. Anyway. Next, Indiana at UCLA. Give me UCLA at home. And like I said, for me, UCLA, now my Tigers have to take them on in a couple weeks. So I actually would love for them to win this game. I would love for them to go in undefeated. Because, that'll make that game more interesting. Indiana, to me, they have been beating the brakes off of teams. But again, they haven't played anybody. Which, I'm going to be saying that about a couple teams on this pick list. which is why I say UCLA is going to win this game at home, because Indiana really hasn't played anyone yet, so they're undefeated right now. But I think they run into a wall. And this is one of those old situations where UCLA's in the Big Ten. We got to get used to that now. So we got Indiana going all the way to California. So we got to get used to this stuff. But this is a Big Ten matchup. Give me UCLA. Give me Ethan Garbers in that offense to impose their will on Indiana. And even though the coach had that little gaffe in the preseason, nobody cares about that. Go out and win the football game. UCLA gets it done. Air Force at Baylor. Baylor looked very bad against Utah last week. They couldn't do anything. Even when Cam Rising went down and was out for the rest of the game, that was their golden opportunity to come back and win this football game, and that Utah defense said no, sir. Air Force started out, I believe, 8-0 last year, and then Army came in and ruined that party for them. They seem like a very good football team, and we know what Air Force is going to do. They're going to run that option. I don't know if Baylor can stop that option because I don't know if they can score enough points. I'm going to stick with Baylor. They're at home. I don't know if their fans are going to show up because of how bad they played last week, but I expect them to do enough. I expect Dave Aranda to have this defense ready to play and stop this option. I think early on Air Force will get it going, but I believe eventually Baylor will have the upper hand. Now I'm going to do a quick run of games where I'm just going to pick them, not really give an explanation, just kind of run through them. Texas A&M at Florida, these two teams I could care less about. Give me Texas A&M to win. I mean, Florida, they got DJ Lagway in finally, but I just think A&M's better. Their defensive line's better. I like their quarterback just a tad bit better. Give me A&M on the road. Number 5, Ole Miss at Wake Forest. Give me Ole Miss. I think they will win this game. I was going to pick Wake Forest, but then they were up against Virginia last week at home, and Virginia came back and beat them, which was just laughable. So, Ole Miss, I expect to go on the road and win. Now, this is the toughest game Ole Miss has played all year. They've played a bunch of nobodies, but I still think they go on the road, put up about 50 points, take down Wake Forest. Colorado at Colorado State. I don't even want to spend a lot of time on this game. Colorado makes me sick. I still believe in Deion, which is why I'm going to pick Colorado to win this game still. This is a rivalry game. I know Colorado State last year came within a hair of double overtime of beating them. And I've been seeing a couple interviews they've been talking about we're going to get revenge and do all this. I hate when people do that because 9 times out of 10 what happens is they get in the game and it doesn't go with how they think it's going to go. I still think Colorado's a better team than Colorado State. I just do. I don't care where the game is. I just think they're better. Shedeur Sanders, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Travis Hunter is probably the best player in the country. I think they step up. They bounce back from last week. They get the job done. And they beat them again. Because they better beat them. Because if they don't, Deion, I love you, buddy, but I'm going to jump off that train. You can't lose this football game. You just can't. Go on the road. Find a way to put points on the board and win the game. UCF at TCU. This is a low-key good matchup. I expect a lot of points in this game. Give me TCU's defense. I was really impressed with them with how they did against Stanford. Well, they went on the road. They were down early. They were sloppy. They clamped down. They find a way to come back and win that game. That really impressed me. So give me TCU over UCF at home. And again, remember 2 years ago, no one was talking about TCU early on. You know, they're just kind of floating around, winning football games. And again, they came out of nowhere. I'm not saying they're going to do that this year, but just watch out. The Big 12, again, Big 12 champion gets an automatic bid. You could find TCU in that discussion if they win this football game, get to 3-0. I'm just saying. No Oklahoma, no Texas this year. TCU could find themselves in that discussion, especially since you got Arizona and Kansas State playing on Friday. You've got a chance to get out early and get above this. Number 9, Oregon at Oregon State. Give me. Man, I'm thinking about Oregon State here. It's a rivalry game, Civil War game. Oregon, people keep saying Oregon hasn't looked good. I don't think it's that they haven't looked good. Idaho is an FCS team now, but they're a pretty good FCS team. They made the playoff last year. And everybody seems to think Boise State's going to get to the playoff, and they think Ashton Jenney, their running back, is going to be in the Heisman. So if you think those two things are true, then you can't really be upset with Oregon for winning a close game. They're either a good team or they're not. And I do think Boise's a good team. So they won a nail-biter in a game that they have never beaten Boise State in. So, we got to stop doing these things that we do, where we talk out of both sides of our mouths. They beat a good Boise State team. I don't care where the game was played. They're still a good football team. The Idaho game looked ugly, but I never thought they were going to lose that game. Not 1 second. So I'm going to go with Oregon here. I'm going to trust in them one more time. Dylan Gabriel, their quarterback, I still think is great. Their defense was fine in week 1, and then they let Boise State run all over them and make plays. So I'm not sure what their identity is at this point. So they had better find it this week, because Oregon State is not playing around. So they had better find their identity very quickly, or they're going to be, because you notice the last 2 weeks they've gone down in the rankings, even though they've won. They lose this game, they might be in the 20s. So I still believe in this Oregon team. I just think they have a tougher than people think schedule. Ohio State hasn't played anybody. Literally. So, yeah, Ohio State's going to look better. They're playing Western Michigan. I mean, come on, man. Western Michigan's not good. They're not a good football team. Oregon's playing good football teams. Now, you expect them to take care of business, which they did. They just didn't put up 80 points like you want. But, again, I don't want to hear nothing about Ohio State right now. They haven't played anybody. You look at teams like Michigan, you look at teams like Penn State, they've played quality, tough opponents. Whether they've won or lost, they've played teams that matter or that are in the discussion of good football teams. Ohio State hasn't done that yet. Now, we'll see. Coming up, they got Michigan State. Michigan State looks good, so 2-0, looking good. We'll see how they do in a couple weeks, but let's just relax on Oregon. I think they will be fine, and I think this is a game where they prove to people that they're fine. Let's go Memphis at Florida State. Give me Memphis. This is probably one of my most confident picks. Florida State's just bad. Their offensive line's bad. DJU looks like the same DJU I've seen. Actually, he was better at Clemson than he is now. He looks really bad. He looks tentative. He's overthrowing. He's underthrowing. He's hitting guys in the back of the head. That defensive line is probably one of the most overrated defensive lines I have ever seen. And I'm ashamed to even say that I was expecting big things out of them because they look horrible. A lot of people think Memphis can get to that college football playoff spot, and at this rate, they win this game, get to 3-0. Trust me. I have them losing to Tulane in the American Championship, but again, you go on the road, take care of your business. If you're Memphis, you look at Florida State like they're in your conference. Like they're an American team, like they're Rice or somebody. That's how you look at them because they're 0-2 and they're fighting for their lives right now. So I think they go in there and get the job done. Some people say that's an upset, but again, Florida State to me, they're not ranked. They're 0-2. They've gotten pushed around by two teams at home and then in another country. So they're just getting pushed around wherever they go. But yeah, give me Memphis. Number 24, Boston College at number 6, Missouri. I would have thought that College Game Day would have went to this game, but instead of going to South Carolina, but I'm not going to complain. about them going to one of my team's games, but I do have Missouri. I think Boston College, the fact that they're ranked is, I'm not mad at that, but it's just weird. They did beat Florida State, but I mean, I don't know if that was necessarily deserving to be ranked. I actually thought they were going to rank South Carolina and not Boston College, so I was wrong. But I don't know if Missouri hasn't played anybody. So the fact that they have held their first two opponents to 0 points is not impressive because they haven't played anybody worth being impressed over. This is the first test of the season. And this is a couple teams' first tests of the season in this game, week 3. So, but I also take Missouri because I like Theo Weiss, I like Luther Burden III, and I like Brady Cook, their quarterback. And I think he can make a Heisman stand if he can go. This is a big game. It's an early game, but it's a big game at home. Give me Missouri over Boston College. The big noon game is Alabama, number 4 Alabama at Wisconsin. I'm not even going to spend much time on this. Give me Alabama. I hate these people, but, I mean, I would just be a straight-up hater if I picked Wisconsin. And I am a hater. I do hate Alabama, no question about it. But I can't in good conscience pick Wisconsin to win this game. I know they're at home. Early game, big noon kickoff. Mark Ingram going around making noise, acting a fool. I get it. They do the jump around thing, which I like. And I've been to Wisconsin. It is a weird place. So I expect weird things to happen. I just don't know if they can score enough points to beat Alabama. I expect that Wisconsin defense to, because Alabama's offense looked god-awful last week. They should have lost that game to USF. I don't think that the quarterback for USF could exploit some things because he can move around. This Van Dyke kid for Wisconsin, when he was at Miami, he couldn't move. I don't expect him to move here. He's a stationary guy. I've seen bright spots from him, but I haven't seen enough consistently for me to think that all of a sudden Wisconsin's going to upset Alabama. It's not going to happen. Give me Alabama. I think it's close for a while, and then Alabama just kind of leans on them. I'm not going to let last week's Alabama game make me go over the cliff and just say, oh, yep, Wisconsin. No. If Wisconsin win this game, I would be surprised, honestly. I would be. This would be the biggest upset of the season. The Northern Illinois game, it was a good upset, but this would be the biggest upset of the season. No question about it. I see Arizona State, Texas State on right now, so I'm trying to hurry up and get the rest of these picks done. Now, we get to probably my 3 favorite games of the day, or of the weekend. Number 18, Notre Dame at Purdue. Give me Purdue to win this game. Number 18, Notre Dame. They're going to be unranked after this week. I think Notre Dame goes off a cliff. I'm actually really sad. After they went on the road to Texas A&M, I had a very good argument with the good father that this team is going to not only make the playoff, but they had a harder than expected schedule. And then when I did that, they turned around the very next week and did what they did. So that's sick. Now, it could be that Northern Illinois is just a very good team. But, I mean, this offense was terrible. Riley Leonard, man, I got to call you out. I'm not going to call a coach out just yet. I'm going to give him a pass. I'm going to call you out.
You don't have to.
Because you were terrible. There was nothing your coach could do to scheme up or save you. You were throwing passes. You were hitting people in the cleats. That last pick you threw is the whole reason why they got down there to kick that field goal. I don't know what you were doing. I loved you when you were at Duke because I like Duke. And I saw you coming up, and I said, this young kid, he looks like he's got some talent. You get hurt, and you kind of fumble that season away, and then you decide to transfer for whatever reason, and then you do this to me. After that beautiful A&M game you played, and you did that. That was just sick. That defense still looks very good. But there's one thing about Purdue that they always seem to do at home. and occasionally on the road. When they play top 10 teams, they beat them. How many times has Purdue beaten Ohio State? I think like 4 times in the last 20 years. I know because I've personally watched them beat Ohio State multiple times. Remember they beat Iowa when they were ranked 2 in Iowa? Remember that? And then the very next week, I believe they beat Michigan State at home, and Michigan State was in the top 10. This team, for some reason, when they play smaller schools, Purdue I'm talking about, they struggle. I watched them, Fresno State, for example. I watched Fresno go in there and give them all they wanted. But Nevada, I've seen teams do it. But when they play top 10 caliber opponents, they rise to the occasion. And I think Notre Dame is the perfect specimen for Purdue to beat. At home, 2:30 game. People really kind of won't be paying attention to it. It'll be on CBS, but you know what I mean. It's one of those games where there's a lot of other games that people will be looking at that 2:30 window, rivalry games and such. And they're going to look down at the scoreboard and see Purdue 31-10. I won't be surprised because this is what they do. At some point in time, when people keep doing the same thing over and over again, you say it's insanity. And it is insanity that they keep doing this to teams. But I've learned at some point in my life to stop doubting what I keep seeing with my own eyes. This is what they do to people. Or ranked teams, at least. And to be quite honest with you, Purdue has looked very good early on, first couple weeks. Now, again, haven't necessarily played anybody, but usually what happens with Purdue is they struggle with the Central Michigans, the Fresno States, Nevadas, and South Alabamas, and these type of teams. They've taken care of business. Hudson Card, their quarterback from Texas, he looks really good. He looks better than he did last year. And he got progressively worse last year. He looks good so far this year. This is the game for him to show up. And quite honestly, if they beat Notre Dame, they should be ranked next week. Because you gave Boston College a nod and then you gave Northern Illinois a nod for beating Notre Dame. They're I think they're 25th. Now, what they've done, well, I'll save that for later. Purdue wins the game. Next, again, these next 2 games are Louisiana related. This is a big weekend for the state of Louisiana, sports-wise. We got 3 big Louisiana teams on the road in primetime games with chances to make statements. Tulane at number 15, Oklahoma. 2:30 game. I want to pick Tulane to win this game. I want to. Oklahoma looked terrible against Houston last week. If Houston was competent, they win that football game. I think Tulane's competent. I obviously think they're better than Houston. They got robbed last week against Kansas State. No question about it. If they don't win this game, they can still make the playoff because they still have a conference championship to win. But they would have to go 10-2, win that game, go 11-2, and hope that they're higher ranked. Now, they're already behind the 8 ball because they put Northern Illinois at 25 already. So they're already behind. And I don't even know who Northern Illinois is playing this week. I got to go check. But as long as Northern Illinois, I don't believe they have another power team on their schedule. I could be wrong. I have to go check, but I don't think that's the case. If that's the case, what that means is as long as Northern Illinois beats the teams in the MAC and get to the MAC championship, they're still going to be ranked at least until we get into the college football playoff rankings. If Tulane wins this game, this will be, I won't say it'll be one of the biggest upsets of all time because of how Oklahoma looked last week, but they're still ranked 15th. They're still Oklahoma. They're still at home. This will definitely be a top 10 upset of all time if they can go win this football game. And if I'm not mistaken, you know what? I can't pinpoint the exact year, but I remember when Oklahoma, was it last year or was it the year before? I don't remember. But Tulane went to Oklahoma, and I think it was like 49-40 or something like that. I remember that game. That just came back to my memory. Tulane went to Oklahoma because the game was supposed to be in New Orleans. And because of hurricanes and whatnot, they moved the game to Oklahoma. That's why it looked like there was no fans. This idiot. That's why it looked like Arizona State over here trying to fumble away my pick early on, folks. But anyway. Yeah, that game was supposed to be in New Orleans, which I would have loved to see that game. Oklahoma going to Tulane. That would have been awesome. But this is a home-and-home type situation where they go to their stadium, they come to yours, but hurricane stuff happened, so they had to go to Oklahoma. And they almost won that football game. And they were actually terrible that year. I think they were like 2-10. And they almost won that football game. So Tulane has played Oklahoma before in Norman. Now, the difference is this will be a sold-out packed crowd. But still, I will pick Oklahoma to win because, I'm a smart guy. I think Brent Venables will have his guys ready to play. I believe he's telling them, listen, guys, they've come in this building and gave us all we wanted before. This is no joke of a team. As my grandpa would say, it's not incarnate word. They're not, which they're actually a pretty good FCS team, by the way, but still. This is not a team to joke around with. I do not believe they will joke around with them. I don't know if Tulane can stop Oklahoma, but I didn't think Houston could stop Oklahoma, and they did. So, I just, the way they got robbed last week is just still in my mind. So, if they win this game, much like Purdue, they should be ranked. Oklahoma should be unranked if they lose. Notre Dame will be unranked if they lose. So, that's two teams that would be unranked. Arizona's at 20. If they lose, they're out. So, we got three teams that could be unranked. Boston College as well. So we got four teams. You put Purdue in, take Notre Dame out. If Tulane wins, you put Tulane in, you take Oklahoma out. I think it should jump Northern Illinois because we like Notre Dame, but Oklahoma, number one, is ranked higher. And Tulane is, to me, a better football team than Northern Illinois. And I think Oklahoma might slightly be a better team than Notre Dame. So you could go back and forth with that, but, So if Tulane wins, I wouldn't be surprised because I do think they're good enough to win this football game. And I don't think Oklahoma's good enough to run them over. And I think it might be an overlooked game because it's 2:30. Again, there's other rivalry games on that people are going to pay more attention to. But I think Tulane can get it done. But I'm going to pick Oklahoma because I do think he will have them ready, defensively at least. But yeah, last game, the college game day game. They're headed to Columbia, South Carolina for number 16 LSU at South Carolina. I'm not going to waste much time telling you who I'm going to pick to win. You should understand this by now. You know who I'm going with. You know who I'm going with. I didn't when I saw this on my screen because I think it came up Sunday when I was watching the NFL games. I scrolling through Facebook and I saw college game day going to LSU at South Carolina. I said, what? Huh? Now, that was on Sunday. The rankings, the rankings actually came out on Sunday, so it might have been early Sunday morning. I thought they were going to rank South Carolina because of how they beat the brakes off of Kentucky on the road. Now, they didn't. They actually moved LSU up 2 spots, which made me happy, but we struggled in the first half against Nichols. Now, we clamped down and took care of business in the second half like we were supposed to. I was not scared at all. I was just confused. I never thought we were going to lose that game. I was just confused. Unlike a certain team in Tuscaloosa who really should have lost that game, but whatever. And Nichols is not a bad team. Just still an FCS school, so they're supposed to win, and they did, and they ran them over eventually, but unlike some other team. But anyway, college game day will be there. Sold out crowd, South Carolina. You expect it in Williams-Brice Stadium. The last 2 times we played this team that I remember were both at home. We were supposed to play them that one year, and then, of course, hurricane stuff happened, and we ended up going back home to play them. That was the Fournette game. I remember that game. We beat them. And the other game was, I believe they were a top 5 team, and we were, ranked. It was a ranked game, but they were, a big one. They were a top-ranked team. They came to our house, and it was an ugly game, but we got it done. So, of course, I think we're going to win. I'm not even going to hassle about it, but it shocked me that they chose to go to this game, because I thought they would have went to Wisconsin for that game, because they love Alabama, even though they say they don't root for teams. I mean, whatever, they love Alabama because of Nick Saban and whatnot. I thought they would have went to Missouri, give Missouri a chance. Boston College is ranked. They beat Florida State. They could have went to that game. They could have went to Oregon State for that rivalry game, but they chose South Carolina. So LSU, big game, spotlight's on you. 11 o'clock game, which means right after game day, Kirk and Chris Fowler will be in the studio for this game. So I love that matchup. Whenever these two guys get to call an LSU game, it's awesome. And because the SEC is on ABC now along with ESPN, I presume they're going to be calling way more LSU games, I'm happy about that. You got to win this game if you're LSU. Obviously, I'm picking them to win it, but I need them to win this football game. And not only do I need them to win this football game, I need them to run over South Carolina, because I just think we're better. Now, their defense was really good against Kentucky, but you got to remember, this offensive line of LSU is one of the best in the country, and they got two offensive linemen that are likely to go in the top 10, if not top 20. So, yeah, they looked good last week, but let's not forget, Kentucky's offensive line compared to LSU's offensive line is not even the same thing. So I think that will be the difference. I think we don't like to run the football, but then we also lost John Emery, that really hurt me, because I watched this kid. This dude has been here since we won the national championship. I watched him change his number 5 times. He's just gotten hurt. And, that just happens to players sometimes. They just can't stay healthy. It is what it is, But that really hurt me when I found out he was out for the season, because he really was running angry against USC. And then he goes down and gets hurt. And it sucks. So, but I do think we have young running backs, Caleb Jackson, and we still have Williams, who's been there also since the national championship season. So, it sucks, but Brian Kelly, he was angry in that press conference, as he should have been. A lot of people thought he was just whatever, but I actually liked it, because it's my team. Shannon Sharp thought it was disrespectful or whatever the case, but with all due respect to that young man, this is my team, so I can say this. I thought it was great. I think he needs to get into them and get them to, because at the end of the day, the players have to play on the field. They have to catch the ball, and they have to do what is necessary to win the football game. Now, we don't turn the ball over. I'm happy about that. And apparently, Garrett Nussmeier hasn't been sacked at all. 0 sacks through 2 games. Again, you know why? That offensive line. LSU's offensive line is not Kentucky's offensive line. I'm going to keep telling people that. So when they try to figure out, why is South Carolina not doing all these things they did last week? I'm telling you why. We got pro guys on our line. Kentucky has no pro nothing. And again, I just feel like, because this is a road game, I think we are going to come in and put our foot on their neck, because I don't think South Carolina's offense is good at all. Kentucky's just a bad football team. That's what I believe. They're just bad. The Sellers kid, with the goggles and whatnot, he can move around a little bit, but he doesn't scare me. That offense doesn't scare me at all. So, I'm not worried about that. I expect our defense, who looked great against USC, they gave up the game-winning drive, but the entire game, compared to last year, they looked great. Nichols, they gave up some pop plays, but other than that, in penalties, they were fine. We got to stop with the penalties. It's killing us. And it's not that we're getting a lot of penalties necessarily, it's that we're getting penalties at the wrong time. We have Brian Kelly, that's on you. You got to correct that. Because you've been known for your line play. Offensive line, defensive line. Cincinnati, Notre Dame. Line play. We have got to stop with these penalties. Because even after everything I just said about South Carolina, We still got to line up and play and not have these stupid procedural, unnecessary roughness, doing stupid stuff in the back of the end zone. Like, what are we doing? Get these boys under control and get them to play football. And we'll be just fine. But like I said, I expect this offense is great. It just is. Garrett Nussmeier looks like he's been there he has been there for a while, but he looks like he's been playing in that offense for years. He saw what Jaden Daniels and Joe Burrow and those guys did. So he's well aware, he's poised, he's confident. He's not going to be shaken under the pressure of playing it. Now, South Carolina is a great environment, no question. I've seen Alabama go in there and get run over. I've seen Georgia back in the day used to go in there and lose. So it's a good environment to play in, no question. And Clemson as well. Tennessee. I've seen a lot of teams go in there and wilt under the pressure. This is not a primetime game. It will still be a sellout crowd. It will be loud. The towels will be shaking. But it ain't like it's 8:30. It's 11 o'clock. Early. Getting the crust. Getting the toothpaste out of your mouth. All that type of stuff. The beer hasn't even... Well, I'll take that back. So... yeah, I expect it to be prime time as far as a noon game goes. Raucous environment, the towels will be spinning, the electronics will be moving. And I expect them to fight for a moment, but I just think that defense and the defensive line play that they displayed was a little overblown because of the difference of offensive line play, and I strongly believe in my offensive line. So I'm going to pick my team, but I expect this offensive line to wear down South Carolina's defense and stop all that pass rush. And, we run over them, and this game could get ugly. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a good game because they're at home. They're 2-0. They feel good. But, even if their offense is able to, put points up, they do not want to get in a scoring contest with LSU. A lot of teams don't want to do that, but this is his third game now. So you saw what happened last week. I don't care if it's against Nichols or against a tree. The confidence just keeps he doesn't look happy even when they score. I'm talking about Garrett Nussmeier. Because he knows there's more that could be happening, more plays that can be made. So I like that in a quarterback when he's confident and angry, but he knows we can do more even though we're scoring 50 points a game. Yes. I like that. Is right. I like it. And I think he's one of those guys, man. I really think he could be a Heisman contender. He played well. Even though we lost to USC, he played well. I just thought we were conservative. We kept throwing passes behind or at the line of scrimmage. I don't like that stuff a lot. I really don't. Stop doing that. I know we have speed and all this. We're down 3 receivers. Hopefully we'll get them back. This offense, I think, is going to be great again. Garrett Nussmeier is going to be a Heisman contender. He will prove that in this game. This defense come to play yet again and stop the damn penalties. All right, one more thing before we go. I'm going to have me and my pops, who is here. We're going to pick this NFL game tonight since we're not going to do the NFL picks until tomorrow. So, but since this game is today, we're going to go ahead and pick this game and start. Just to recap, by the way, what happened in week 1 in the NFL. As far as our picks go, the score was... Hold on. We both did pick the Lions. We both did pick the 49ers, and we were both right. So I got to add those 2 points for us. So the final score in week 1 was 11-9. He got 2 picks that I thought I would get, and I didn't. So he's up on me by 2. That will change after this week, of course. Bills at Dolphins. Who do you have winning this game?
Bills are going to win in Miami. I just like Josh Allen a little more than I like Tua, regardless of the weapons. Something about the Bills and the Dolphins. And
Bills can't seem to beat the Dolphins. Or the Dolphins can't seem to beat the Bills for whatever reason.
And Josh Allen is just another monster. He's a beast.
he is. We're both agreeing. We're in agreement on this. Bills are going to win. I just don't trust the Dolphins at all.
No, it's not really the Dolphins. I don't trust Tua.
No, I don't trust the Dolphins. They can't win They can't beat a. I don't want to do this, but point is, for some reason they can't beat like good to great teams, and it doesn't matter where the game is. But they definitely can't beat the Bills. They just for some reason they can't. And Josh Allen is basically Superman. I expect him to go flying all over the field against this Dolphins defense, who is missing players. I think one of the running backs is hurt, so they're a little nicked up. Josh Allen, he's got a glove on his hand. I'm looking at him right now. We know what he can do. I keep seeing people saying, "Oh, he should slide or not do." What are you talking about? Stop. This is football. If there's a play that needs to be made, go make the play. I don't want to hear nothing about he's got to get out of bounds and slide and do all that. The man is 6 foot plus, 200 plus pounds. I mean, there's not too many guys on the defense that are going to tower him. He's going to make a play if he has to win the game. So I don't want to hear no more of that crap. That's why we love him. I've been watching him since he was at Wyoming, and I knew he was special then, and I'm happy to see him, progressing now. I would love to see him get a ring. I would hope he would get one. We'll see. This team it was one game, so I hate to, especially in the NFL, I really hate to, after one game, just start going nuts. So I'll reserve my judgment till maybe after week 3. But, yeah, we both have the Bills. So that's going to be it for this podcast today. Tomorrow we're going to do the rest of the NFL games, and I will try to get myself back together. But, yeah, that's going to be all for today. We'll talk to you later.